Hi, today's recipe comes from the Azores Islands, specifically from the island of Terceira. This is a famous dessert they call Bolos Dona Amélia. The history behind this is that in 1901, it was the first time royalty, the king and queen from the mainland of Portugal, visited what they called back then just the adjacent islands. So when Queen Amelia and King Carlos visited the island in 1901, they named this dessert after her. But Terceira is this, I believe it's the second biggest island, has about 60,000 inhabitants, and it's extremely, the whole Azores Islands are extremely strategic for Portugal because, you know, over 1,000 miles off the coast of Portugal, and it was a great place to resupply ships, to fix ships, to restock the ships, and even in World War II, Portugal was neutral during World War II, but they let the Allies use Terceira as a military base, so to refuel planes there. All right, the first thing we want to do before even making our batter is to butter our molds and sprinkle a little flour in them. This dough obviously has a lot of sugar in it. It's very sticky, molasses. So you want to make sure you liberally coat it with butter, then sprinkle it with flour to make it easier to remove. So I put a few, like maybe a half teaspoon in each mold. Just kind of rub it in there really good. So for this, you'll probably need an extra half a stick of butter just to butter the molds. And you want to make sure you get it all the way up the top to the very rim. It's even probably not a bad idea to put a little bit just above the rim. And I don't recommend using like a spray butter, like what we call Pam spray, because it just doesn't work as well as real butter and flour. And then I'll do the same thing to my little tartlet shells. All right, now we're going to flour the molds. I have a little bit of there's a lot of butter in them. And then if you have the separate molds, you could kind of put them together like a little clamshell. Dust some flour in there. Put it in the next one. If you're using a muffin tin tray, I found the easiest thing is just to put some flour inside a little sieve like this and just kind of dust the interior with a little flour. Right, this recipe takes nutmeg, so I have some fresh nutmeg. You could use ground up nutmeg also, so I'll grate the fresh nutmeg. And if you've never used fresh nutmeg before, the aroma that comes off of it is just incredible. Again, part of the reason why this cake was so important was it kind of symbolized Portugal's role in the spice trade in this new era of exploration. Now you also want the zest from one lemon. Whenever you're zesting lemon, remember, try not to get the white pithy part. That has a lot of bitter tannins. Okay, I already measured out all my ingredients. So I'm going to put in 4 whole eggs, 5 egg yolks, 2.5 cups of granulated sugar. We'll stir that up. And then you want to put anywhere between 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons of molasses. I'm not a huge dark molasses fan, so I'm just going to put about 1 tablespoon. This is really an important part of the archipelago islands of the Azores and Madeira, so they were great places to grow sugarcane, and molasses is a byproduct of growing sugarcane. So I'll try to get a whole tablespoon there. And molasses is what makes brown sugar brown. I believe most processed brown sugar you'll find in the stores, they actually, in the processing, they separate molasses from cane sugar and then they actually add some back in. If you ever don't have brown sugar, you just could always add a little bit of molasses to sugar cane. Now I'm going to add in the nutmeg and the cinnamon. Also, you want to make sure your oven's preheated to 400 degrees. So now we'll put in the lemon zest, 1 stick of whole butter. Now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of granulated regular table salt. And it looks like the final thing is just to add the flour, the corn flour. And now we'll mix in our flour. You could do this in like a KitchenAid mixer also, but I definitely don't think they had those in 1901. So you could also do it by hand. And you don't need to mix it for a long time. You're just combining the ingredients. Now we just want to make sure nothing's stuck to the sides. It already tastes really good. All right, now we're ready to fill the molds. I found it's easier to pour it in like a big measuring cup. Remember, there's no leavening agent in this. There's no baking powder, baking soda, or yeast. So this is almost more like a torte. So it's a bit denser. It shouldn't rise too much. I would fill them about 80% full. Our oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and traditionally they'll put like 3 or 4 raisins on top of each little muffin cake. I do have another Azorian dessert from San Miguel, Queijadas de Villafranca. Now I'll put them in my preheated oven. I wish you could be here to smell this kitchen right now. Anyway, you'll have to make it for yourself. Okay, the Queijadas de Dona Amélia have been out of the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Just get a sharp knife. Even these with all the butter seem to be sticking just a little bit. Okay, the little cakes are unmolded, they're flipped over, and now we'll coat them with powdered sugar. So you just put a little powdered sugar in there and kind of liberally coat them with powdered sugar. Now you can make these desserts that were inspired by the visit from the Queen of Portugal. And also this dessert pays homage to the spice trade that was so important to Portugal's culture. Give it a try. Now go out and cook for somebody else.